Alright, so we are right back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video, and this time we are going to be visiting the top 5 decks in the current format, this time around in April 2019. I think this is the perfect time, as we just had 3 different events, 3 different celebrations, with one without set 6 and the others with set 6, and then we also have the Pro Play Tour Dallas event this weekend as well. I'll be going over all of the decks that I do believe, of course, that are the top 5 in the current meta and format. But again, this is my opinion. I'm definitely not the word of law. There are many videos, many things out there that are very similar to what I do, but this is just me, which kind of brings me back to the previous video. I'll go ahead and ask again. So go ahead and turn off the video, turn off the music. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think the top 5 decks are in the format? Let me know. Okay, great. I hope you did, because now I want to go ahead and refer back to the last video I made and take a look at the list that I made along with the last event's pre-set 6. So we first had, in no particular order of course, Shenron Gogeta. So this guy kind of fell off due to the insurgence of Green Broly, and in addition to the new Super Shenron getting aggroed down with multiple attacks per turn, something that Shenron just can't handle. It has a big hand, it just can't handle that all of that early game. And this, with its longevity, people knew that matchup and started playing against it accordingly, and kind of sided against it. It got a little linear, which most meta decks can get. We also had 2 in the top cut between Vegas and PPG Atlanta, and 0 in the top cut in Orlando Celebrations, which was preset 6. I don't think there is any top as far as the new set 6 decks, but we're kind of focusing on the pre-set 6 anyway. And then we had Janemba, the male Janemba, hugely representing a leader, a very a lot of people call it helmet deck, but I don't think that's really fair. I think it's a very defensive and control deck. You just sort of play it, it does its thing. A lot of blue stuff, a lot of cool blue stuff in other options, like the new 3-drop Vegeta, the new negate that bounces a 2 or less, etc, etc. But most Janemba decks kind of stay the same, and it didn't really gain that too much support other than the destruction rare, but it also gets bodied by TN and other answer cards. Yes, we did have 3 in San Diego that topped, but in correlation to that, and as well as reference, the Orlando had 5 in top cut, 3 between Vegas and PPG, with 2 event wins, 1 in Montreal. It's not as many, and I don't think there's any, or at least 1 in Chicago. Someone can definitely correct me on that. Then we have Yellow Broly, which now everybody's kind of talking, was talking about, but now has its own weakness, but it is still a very good leader. It's probably one of the strongest leaders on paper that we had in the last like 4 or 5 sets, honestly, other than like Rudigan and Shenron and all that, right? But more and more aggro options and other decks running around. The game's a lot of hand and board advantage for Broly to deal with. Self-harm is not really the way to go anymore. It's very hard to keep that up and keep defense, and also maintaining a board and hand advantage all at the same time. I think turn 4 for Honda Mastery is still a little bit slower, but Super Shenron is just a better way to do it, and other options a better way to do it. I think Yellow Broly with that archetype is still very, very strong, but now kind of struggles against red leaders due to the new gates and support. And just like Shenron, it's been kind of figured out. So you know, the glass cannon kind of nature, all that, right? Between Montreal, Orlando, Vegas, he did have 5 decks in top cut and a whopping 5 in the PPG Atlanta. I don't think he had any in San Diego, and then in Charlotte he had 2 in top cut and 1 in Chicago, but don't believe me on that. Go watch the video. But you know, we also had Red Frieza. That was just kind of my personal pick. I think Red Frieza kind of fall off a little bit. People are moving bigger to better things. He still has his own archetype, but is a little limited. You know, I went over that in the last video. I think surviving a 3 energy is a little optimistic, because you can play Live to Fight Another Day. But with the right defense, and as well as the backside bean and all the red support, he might have a chance later on, and I'll kind of get into that later. And of course, Pan, my girl Pan, squeezed in the top cut some way, somehow, and went undefeated in Chicago with Devin shout out to him. Please, whenever you have some time to take a listen to that deck profile in our discussion, please go ahead and do that. I think it was a good little back and forth and good insight of how a Pan player does play the Pan deck. She did have 3 decks in the Vegas event. 4 in Montreal, 1 in Charlotte. I don't think there's any in San Diego. I don't believe so. Yeah, none in San Diego, so that's a bummer. And of course, all of these celebration events are a little bit different from all the other events. They're not 8 or 9 rounds like the other events since they're so huge. They're only 6 rounds, so it's not very good to kind of sample that. It's a small sample, but even more reason why this weekend is going to be very interesting to see exactly how the Dallas event's going to turn out. And I did mention a number of honorable mentions, which Rudigan and Baby did get into top cut in a number of events. I was just being really hopeful for the others. And now that's it for the recap of the decks. Let's kind of understand what changed and what are the new decks in this format. Kid Goku, let's start with my personal favorite. There's been a lot of talks about this guy, decks that you can play, and but there are a lot of reasons why that is and why his specific super rare cards and foil vanillas are going up in price, or did go up in price and now falling, which is good to stabilize. Anyway, as far as his pros, he's very incredibly versatile. Thankfully, Kid Goku can play all different kinds of colors, except for black. Black doesn't have any vanillas, but still you can kind of splash any color with that. And referencing in general, he's really referred to the blue and yellow variants. Red is really good. Shout out to Joss. He showcased that going top 8 in San Diego. But I would say definitely revisit that. The one that I put up before was kind of a skeleton, and you can kind of take from that. Blue can play Senzu-Bean, Gogeta, all these other mid-range options, and then yellow can play the championship Goku for style, for the cheese, Bad Ring, and of course the new Crit Krillin, and then of course the World Champion, the Whis, Nimbus, all this other stuff. And I think in San Diego, I've probably seen each color of Skillless the whole weekend. Like I've seen red. I didn't play against red, but I did see it obviously. I played against blue, I played against yellow, and I played against green. So very interesting. Of course, I played yellow. He does have a dedicated super rare in common. All 3 of these cards, the Vanilla Goku needs, gives a lot of cool interactions with the 4-star ball, spawning out the 30k bodies, all this other good stuff, and of course Android 8 that KOs when Kid Goku leaves the field, which I'm glad they haven't changed the ruling for that one. Of course, this 4-star ball is pretty much a super combo for vanillas, and you can just get it right back. And then the top 7 for Android 8 to get another pseudo super combo for on combo on either turn is really good. And I think it would be definitely a different deck if Android 8 wasn't ruled the same way. Either way, all the dedicated cards are really good with it. And honestly, it's basically make vanilla great. Oh, well, vanillas are great now. And the leader kind of allows vanillas to be a free 10k combo, like I was saying earlier. You can be aggressive or defensive with it. They have really good synergy with the SR, the 2-drop Commander Red, even though no one really plays it. Dimension Support Trunks, and which Power Burst can get back Kid Goku and Android 8. So it's really good, and I think people are really realizing that it's much harder than it seems to remove a 30k body on board. I mean, I can go on and on. There's a lot of different pros and a lot of other things. I mean, you can go check out the deck profile that I made way back when, the 2 deck profiles I did after celebrations, and then countless other videos and articles that talk about Kid Goku. As far as the cons, the draw engine does rely on the 4-star and as well as the Kid Goku. Yes, there are a lot of other cards in the deck that really can gain him advantage. But when it comes down to the draw engine as well as the engine of the deck, you kind of have to commit to those 2 cards. And if you don't draw them, or a quick Zeno, or Phantom Cling Cannon, whatever, it can ruin a person's day if you can't get those cards back. So you have to kind of be careful in making sure to keep these in hand without, or play around them without dying on the field, or warping them, etc., like Mass Saiyan. Also, this deck kind of has a lot of answers to it. This ranges from Stalking Death Ball, the 5-drop Mass Saiyan that warps, the new 1-drop Vegeta, the 2-drop Cargo, even more. And I think I believe people or players will be able to play around this as well, I guess, skillless players, but time goes on, the surprise factor of this deck kind of goes away, and I think after these number of events, it'll have a few different tough, or a few tough times ahead as we get more answers. Red leaders can give this deck a little bit of a hassle. Of course, the chain attack Zeno, and is that all you got? It's really annoying. Baby with constant removal, even though he's not being played too much anymore. Red Frieza with paralysis technique, which again, not playing too much, but still, and any deck that plays M2 can be extremely annoying. So I think those are very good examples of that. And as well as in green, any kind of removal can kind of hurt the deck, or constant removal, I think is something to really watch out for. If you keep your hand strong and your board's presence really good, you should be fine. Now let's talk about one of the top decks, and probably what's gonna take this event if everything goes as planned. Who knows? I think there's a few anti-meta decks that I might touch on a little bit later that will take it down, but who knows? I think Super Shenron, this deck, oh boy. There's a lot of pros, but this deck is pre and post banless Storm at the same time. It abuses a lot of different things and attack a lot of different times and take another turn, because that's normal now, and then do it all over again. And of course, it does have the Higher Mastery package with the Victory Strike, which makes things worse. Like, why not? Let's just put that in there, right? And then taking another turn. So did I mention taking another turn? When this card was revealed, I thought to myself, we're all gonna take the good things about a Black Wish leader and then shove it into a leader that can take another turn with endless possibilities, and that's exactly what happened. Players took a leader that, you know, that can do that and have the best aggressive engine in the game, and then smash it all together and win games, and it has, right? It's taking the last event in San Diego, and I think it's going to take this one too. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to be very surprised, because Green Broly, which I'm going to go over in a little bit, is still really good, and then we still have all these other decks in the jungle, or the meta that everybody else has to deal with. But yeah, I think another pro is that it forces to play its own game. When things go right for a Super Shenron player, you basically just kind of sit there, and it's such like a storm, you know. It's very much like Aggro City. There are mono yellow versions of this deck, blue yellow versions, but the whole thing about this is to attack as many times as you can, use the Explorer moment, and then continue to do that and manipulate energy. And then overwhelm after you take the turn, because you don't really need the Dragon Balls anymore, with Scientist Fu, Mira, etc., to kind of to keep that going. And I think, yes, if you take a look at some of these other decks and other deck profiles that are coming out for Super Shenron, they're kind of slowing down from the attack as many times as you can before the other person can win, because it's going more into mid-range, so high to mastery, and etc. But again, Shenron benefits. If these Super Shenron players are going to continue to play Super Shenron, they should remember that they are a Black Shenron leader. Of course, Shenron has access to Child's Wish, Explorer Boma, and Preface, and all this other stuff, Dragon Radar to draw. It's just very wild without all that. And taking all the benefits of those and placing in this deck is very bananas. I think there's other options as well, like Purunga, in order to remove like the Hidden Mastery mirror. We have Wish 2 Purunga if you want to go ahead and go that route. If you have a Path to Greatness on your end and they have Explorer Boma on their end, you can go ahead and just use that and then warp everything. Oh, well, warp, but bottom deck everything else. And then just win the game the next turn, because honestly, you just hold a Flying Nimbus, you just go into Hidden Mastery the next turn, and then that's good, because that's game, because they won't be able to recover from that. Well, they shouldn't anyway. Of course, yellow access with the Nimbus battering Whis just makes it more powerful, and then the Janemba Killer with the TN, and then taking another turn and getting 20 cards back. It's just another reason why Janemba is kind of fading away. So the cons, it's not too many cons for this deck, but I will kind of go over them. The Glass Cannon, depending on the deck, the deck can be a little fragile outside of Flying Nimbus. The original goal for the deck is to kill within 3 turns, and it can. If it doesn't, and doesn't take another turn to actually end it all, it's gonna be a hard time. And I think if you hold your sense of beans and you're really smart with your Flying Nimbus, you can kind of stop the plays and make sure that they're not doing as many things as they can as possible. Removal. So I personally think that the deck may have a hard time against leaders that can inherently remove, like Blue Gogeta that can go to the bottom, Black Broly that can just KO anytime it wants. Mass Saiyan, of course, is not a leader, but still, it's to send a warp instead of drop, those type of things. And is that all you got? Can force a bad ring, but can also kill off multiple attacks if they're not playing Preface as far as that variant. The issue with this is that you're spending energy to remove, and you may leave yourself defenseless, along with the possibility of playing into that battering. Of course, it does have answers, right? But this deck has answers to the answers. Borgos, the new Whis, the new Veku from TP6 all hinder the untapping abilities, which is why Super Shenron should be main decking Crisis Crusher, and as well as playing around the other cards that they have, like the 3-drops, and of course the Vegeta that now most people are side decking removes the Veku, which is very, very annoying. And I think it's also possible to play around by making him play swap or play battle cards first. Cold Bloodlust is another answer. Anything that kind of stops the untapping and putting more cards into the board, basically. I think this deck is now kind of placed itself in the meta. It's the deck that everybody dreads and everybody wants to play because it does win and it is relatively cheap. So I think the goal is really just to survive to win, which is unfortunate, and then just play against the misplays they may have. All right, next up, green starter deck Broly. So pros. Speaking of surviving to win, let's talk about the new all-star green starter deck. It's very interesting that the starter deck leader can be so strong, but he's won both Charlotte and Chicago celebrations, I do believe. Driving other secret rare to like huge prices is crazy, but he does have access to the Broly chain 1 to 8 that can go off in the right cards and attack a lot in between like turns 1 and 2, and then of course KO anything that's on the board, etc. He gains a hand advantage with taking 2 life, and as well as has access to the secret if anything goes wrong. It is wild. Generally, a person will leave out the 6-drop or leave out the sit drop, but it very much depends. So that way, you know, it just doesn't get KO'd, and then or the 8-drop doesn't get KO'd and it's all over. But it does have incredible support, so the support for the leader in deck is very crazy. The starter deck alone creates a pretty good green-yellow deck, which, you know, that's pretty much how it should be played anyway. Cold Bloodlust, Shocking Death Ball, Preemptive, Dedicated SR, Field card, Tragic Awakening if anything goes wrong. Not to mention a Paragus super combo that draws like Hoi but better, etc. So it's a lot. And of course, speaking of draw, he draws 6. The leader isn't. The leader is really good. I think you can play Paragus Achilai, but at the same time dropping cards from the chain and dumping your hand for KOing the battle cards, or just dumping your hand and then just refilling it is just crazy. And of course, you can remove with the battle cards. You both definitely have some board control and access to previous green support and yellow support. Freezes army to control, like Cold Bloodlust. I already kind of mentioned that. And we don't really know the full potential of the leader. I think if we get out of the like I just made it, the Super 17 Green Broly deck, go check that out. I think it's a pretty fun deck, and it kind of showcases the other options of the leader that we can do because of relatively versatile that he can be. But since people are sticking to the Broly line and nothing else because it's winning, I don't think we don't really know the full potential of the leader just yet. Cons, it can be pretty fragile. I mean, they take a lot of life and early on, and if anything goes awry, again, they have to be forced to play the 1-drop. They have to be forced to play the Tragic Awakening to take away the energy, and that doesn't go well. If it gets Cold Bloodlusted, then it's just over for them, etc., etc. And then if you break the chain, if you know when to play them and when to fold them or something, I don't know. But if they have an 8-drop and they don't have, and if you remove it and they don't have the secret, then that's just gonna be a really bad time for them. Speaking of the answers, the removal in Championship Bardock, multiple counters. If you just do that, if you just counter multiple times, because they only really swing 1 or 2 times per turn. If you Cold Bloodlust, if you Dimension Manager Fu, if you just continue to remove over and over again, Father Son Kamehameha, right? Those are all really good answers to the green Broly deck, and if you keep removing and forcing them to play a different game than their own, it's going to be good. And I think the last con is that it is expensive. It is one of the more expensive decks in the game, simply because of the set 6 drama with the lack of stock and shipments or whatever it is. The starter deck right now is like $25 at my locals. It is crazy, and it's not their fault. It's just because of set 6 and because of the asparagus combos, because of the secret rare being so expensive, that this deck is very expensive overall. So if you are going to invest in this deck, be really good at it. Have your own thing for it, and play against everything else. If you are going to take this deck into Dallas, I think you have a safe bet. Next up is AoE Dende, so Agents of Destruction. Shout out to Russell getting third. This deck can be completely wild. It features a set 6 Dende leader with the secret rare Babidi Boo that spawns out multiple destruction rares, and I think there's a lot of pros. So like the secret rare power, like the power of the secret rare, using his burst effect to get access to the wish cards, etc., and as well as the agents into the drop. It's really good fit with this leader. Child's Wish into the drop, you get it back, etc., right? And not to mention that the 7-drop Boo can be evolved on it, which is just wild. And of course you can give a barrier, which is even more wild, with the 4-drop Boo. And of course it has a blue support with dimension support counter, the Borgos being all this other stuff, right? I mean, for example, outside of this, you can effectively tap out for a Super Dragon Ball, draw, pitch, and then safely take a life and untap 1 or 2 energy if needed with the dimension support. So there you go. And of course, draw power. So this deck kind of keeps a healthy hand early on because it is like a pseudo Black Shenron leader. You draw 2 per turn. You have access to Bulma to put back into your deck and draw. Access to 1-star Super Dragon Ball, etc. It's really good. Con. So this is very mill heavy. Although Janemba is kind of slowly making his way out in the format, it is still a thing. And because of the burst effect, the only answers to this is the 1-drop Bulma and a couple other things, right? So long, groundy games can be kind of an issue if you can't close them out or continue with the same strategy, like getting out the secret rare again. Thankfully, the person can use the secret rare, then put out a TN, and then go for game, turn 3 or 4 against a Janemba player, so you know. Answers in the Black Mass saying, especially multiple ones, forcing them to drop 2 or more each time they do a Child's Wish, which is very detrimental if you do it early on. If you have multiple ones, Crusher Ball for the secrets and the agents who all come out on the rest, Flying Nimbus to prevent multiple attacks, and Kami to wipe a board if you get there. Of course, the deck is strong enough to get around these things, as dropping agents are good, minus Achilles Zone can be played, and Kami isn't that great if they warp their Janembas or if you're already dead. Now this last choice is kind of a flex spot, but also my personal opinion. I think that would be any strong red leader. This can include Pan. Of course, I made a whole video on this, not only with the Devon video, and as well as why she hasn't won a recent event. Yes, I know that she won PPG or PPT, whatever. Okay, I get it. It was only one event. Jesus. Red Gogeta PR and the new promo are really good. Are both really positioned to be strong decks and hand advantage, as well as having access to a really good card pool. It's just, Baby Vegeta is being a little neglected, but I know a few players did attempt to play it in celebrations, but unfortunately got taken down by other top decks. Even Hercule is being talked about to combat Super Shenron meta, and as Janemba kind of fades away, but it does kind of lose to Kid Goku. So if you don't have an answer to that, you just lose. Frieza and Class Frieza should be considered as Live to Fight Another Day. It's a very annoying card to deal with, but I also do believe that access to the promo Vegeta, Veku, and the Chain Attack Zeno is all you got. It's really going to help these decks to top. But the colors to play right now are blue and yellow, and that may require these decks to be splashed for them to be effective. Alright, that is it for the top 5. Let me know what you think about those. Let me go and talk about some honorable mentions like I did last time and close this out. So Veku Ramp. Honestly, probably my new favorite archetype in the line, having fun and being effective at it. He has a lot of good versatility, can play a lot of different engines. Like, watch out for my video. The next video that I'm going to make, it's going to be titled Veku Ramp is the new SS3. And ramping up the big boys is really my thing. I think he has a lot of good access to like double foreseeing hit, the 6-drop Goku, the Goku and Oob, secret rare, etc. You can draw 3 on the backside and remove a no limit outside of using energy. gets around the Gojitas. He can play the Veku promo, etc. It's pretty good. At the downside is that Veku can be played around. The ramp Veku can be played around because of the 3-drop Vegeta or just not attacking. And when that happens, the deck kind of struggles. Yellow Dende. So Yellow Dende is a very good deck. So I think it has less representation simply due to access because of old promos. That's just my opinion. The presence of Janemba as well was a huge deterrent for this deck. I personally think that Mono Yellow in general has a great card pool to kind of combat the meta with Whis and Time Magic, Nimbus, a lot of other things, right? And I think you want to play control and see a person's hand turn 2. You play this deck. Lord Slug. So my board, Lord Slug is nothing to forget about. I think, I played them in San Diego, dropped one game, tied the other, and in experience, I know how fierce and how out of hand this deck can get, and making them drop cards and building a board at the same time. The downside is that it does struggle a little with keeping a big hand. Red Vegeta can ruin the wing strategy, and of course Tao is a terribly designed card, so you could definitely win with them. Just don't expect favorable matchups in this current meta. Rudigan. So unless drawing a lot of cards in both Awakened and Unawakened is ever going to go out of style, Rudigan is not going anywhere. Whether it's mono blue or blue red, he has a great set of features or set of strategies anyone can consider if you want to build a solid deck. You may just be a little more creative to kind of keep up with other decks. Speaking of Gold Frieza, I think this deck is really good. I've played it a few times and I can see how much gas it can put out as well. I think it should be considered, and it doesn't have too many downsides outside of just bad luck. Access to green with Father Son Kamehameha, yellow with Whis, Kobolus, Nimbus, all the other stuff. I think this is kind of a good solid pick for anything outside of the confirmed meta. Mass Saiyan, I think, okay, fine. This is definitely a personal preference of mine, and as I love the deck. But as Janemba fades away, as I said before, I think this can compete as a good, solid aggro deck. You'd be really surprised of how many people don't know how to play against him. And I think that kind of showed in the Latin America Top 32, the video that I made. He went, 7-2, I think, of 9 rounds, no top cut. It's pretty crazy. I think what really limits him is the lack of draw power and just his glass cannon nature, being forced to play the best color for it, red, but no access to the specific red cards that can help against the meta is really a bummer. Black also doesn't have a huge amount of answers to it, but at least he can play most silver bullets in the main deck and not be hurt about it or hurt for it. And of course, lastly, Chile. Shout out to Egg Boy because but I've been brewing a pretty decent Chile deck. Shout out to Michael for that help, and as well as his deck. Hopefully we can get that on the channel. But there are many reasons to play her, and I think Kind Wish is a huge one. She has access to a free board wipe, a free Broly, Shocking Deathball, Cold Bloodlust, the list goes on. She is a damn good leader with the U promo if all goes well, and I think she should be popping up here and there. Alright, that is about it. I can go on all day, but I literally wrote out 3,500 words for this, and I am tired. Let me know what you think about all of this. Check out the sideboard video that I made a while back for this set, for set 6, because this is still pretty relevant. Subscribe if you are new, like, dislike, join the Discord in the description below, and I will see you in the next one. Later.